Welcome to Black Writer Therapy, the podcast where Black women writers come to heal, share, and be their most unapologetic Black woman writer selves. I'm your host and unlicensed therapist, Alishawn, and I'm excited you decided to spend this hour with us. Whether you're joining for the first time or you're a returning listener, this is your space to explore the art of storytelling, find inspiration, and connect with a community of bold and brilliant Black women writers.
Rian N. Jenkins has been in love with writing since sixth grade. Over 30 years, she inspired, entertained, and educated me through poetry, novellas, journalism, and performances. In 2021, she added author to her resume. As of 2024, she has self-published 3 poetry anthologies and looks forward to debuting her first children's book, A Blessing for the World, and first middle grades novel, Reverse. She is also a former teacher, 20 years, and still a spoken word artist, author, mentor. To add to the list of dope and magnificent titles that uplift and empower the community, she calls herself a lit specialist who does book talks online while sponsoring all Black author book drive, the Columbia area. Ms. Rian Jenkins, Ella will see you now.
Hello, and we are here with Rian Jenkins. I'm so excited to have you here. It was a little messy morning, but we are here. So how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Very good. Rian, I'm looking at the spelling, and I would love to know, I think it's so pretty, really pretty. So I would love to know the story behind this name.
Crazy is I was named after a soap opera star called Ryan's Hope, and the actress was named Rian Fernelli, Rian. And I thought that was really ironic that my mom, the Ryan's Hope was spelled Ryan, but the actress of the show was Ryan, Rian. I thought that was very ironic. And she said she was in hope of a healthy baby. And then my middle name is actually after Nichelle Nicholas from Star Trek.
Hey, is that the Black? That's not the Black. Yeah. Okay, you have to call her by that Star Trek name.
Yeah. So it was like she was all about TV when she named me. It was, yeah. So then, but ironically, coming up, it was very rare you came across a girl named Ryan. And if you did, it was spelled R-Y. I was one of the few that was R-I. So.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yay. Well, big ups to mom for that. I love the way it's spelled. Very distinctive. Like you wouldn't need a pen name, right?
I just need them to say it correctly, though. Like they want to say Rian so bad. And I said, there's an I there. Like, make it make sense. Make it. Yeah. But it is what it is. But I'm quick to correct. And then when I did a speech in college, I learned Rian pretty much means royalty or little king or little king. So because I hated my name growing up. Because every now you have a boy's name. And then once I realized the meaning behind it, you can't tell me nothing now.
Yeah. I named my middle daughter Wilson. That's her first name because it's my grandmother's maiden name. So I felt like I always hear little white girls that are like, oh, that's a family name. I was like, I need a family name. It's my children. So I'm so serious. That's why I named her Wilson. But it's spelled with a Y. And
I love it.
Yeah, it's cute. So, Miss Jenkins, man, we have a lot to talk about. You are a poet.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And spoken word artist.
Yes.
Okay. You write prose as well.
Yes.
Okay. Fine. All of this, I don't know how people switch between all the things.
I think it just depends on what you feel like you can do. So, I mean, my love of writing started with poetry. My first 3 books were poetry anthologies. Like I started writing poetry at 12. I don't even know how it switched, but I went from poetry to writing fiction in 7th grade. Like I was writing full novels in 7th grade. So I don't even know what I do remember her name is Shalonda. Me and her used to write each other's notebooks and finish each other's stories. And then I started writing my own. And from there, I still kept writing poetry. I still kept writing fiction. And then in high school, I discovered the student newspaper. We had a newspaper at Ridgeview. I remember I was like a guest. I wrote like one article, but there was this district-wide, multi-district-wide newspaper. It was between Lexington School District, Richland 1, Richland 2, and they selected certain people from, I guess, a journalism class to write in this newspaper. And I remember having to interview people, and I loved that. So initially, I wanted to do mass communications when I went to college, but that changed to education. But I've always enjoyed the different mediums of writing, and I think me coming out of teaching is going to allow me to do so. That's why I'm going back to blogging. I would love to do stuff like that, along with movie scripts and plays. Like I'll never forget. It was 2000, maybe 2000, 2001. I was coming from my first, I think, open mic in Charlotte. And I distinctly heard God said, I called you to be a writer. And he just started listing all these things that I was supposed to write. And I feel like now in 2025, 2024, I'm definitely, when I left teaching, coming full circle with that moment, with me taking the time to really delve into all those different types of writing. So, yeah.
I'm sitting here with goosebumps. Okay. I had to take that in, really, because I'll tell you why it resonates so fully with me. I too taught, and I just remember it was my 7th year of teaching. And you know how you get that 7th year? I don't know about this.
I thought it was just me. Yeah.
No, it's a thing. It's a whole thing, right? So it was my 7th year, and I just remember like sitting home in the summer before going back to my 8th year, and I was thinking, I am not supposed to go back to work. I am not supposed to do this. And I just felt like this. You have this book. We need you to get this book out. What are you doing? And I promised you, I was like, nah, but I got kids, I got mortgage, I got car note, I need that first and 15th. And I just remember feeling like every year after that, something went wrong with my health. Every year. It was something really small. And then things started getting a little bit. By year 14, I was diagnosed with lupus. I was like, fine, I'm coming home, right? Because I don't have a choice now.
Wow.
I knew what it was, but it's like disobedience, because trusting what I could see more than I trusted what wasn't already, right? So when you said that, I was just like, so now anytime anyone talks to me about, I got this feeling like I need to do it. Don't wait, because you're going to get lupus. Look, that's all they say. Do it. Don't. That's what happened, right? So yes, I'm so glad that you heard that voice and you have been following it, and that's so important.
But even when I heard that in 2000, I still taught, because he didn't quite. It's like I kept writing, and I'll admit I stopped writing fiction for a while after college, because I took a course and kind of threw me off mentally, and then started writing again. But I still kept teaching. But it was October 2023 is when I heard the voice again, like, okay, this is your last year teaching. I didn't know I was writing, though. I thought I was, okay, I've been 20 years in the classroom. I'm going to be a consultant. I can travel and tell people how to teach. And that was like, nah, Chief, this is not what it is. And then he started reminding me, and I was like, oh, you did say that. So let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and finish that book and finish some other things. So I've released several projects. God is faithful.
Wow, man, that's so powerful. That is so powerful, Rian. And if nothing else is said in this entire conversation, I hope the listeners hear that, right? When you hear that voice, when you hear that or feel that calling, that pull, be obedient.
Yes.
Just be obedient, right? Because that is, I say all the time, we are here to be co-creators of this reality. And if we're so busy on the rat race, we are not doing what we are meant to be doing. So yes, I love that for you. So tell me a little bit about your poetry and the novellas. You've published, you said 3 anthologies. I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah, so it's as of today, it's 3 poetry anthologies. My first children's book, which just came out this past month, And then the novel, the first novel, like official novel, is coming out in a couple weeks. Matter of fact, it might be next week if everything goes right. But
oh my gosh.
so the poetry anthologies, the first two came out in 2021, and that was actually an accident. I was supposed to release them like within months of each other, but I was still learning the self-publishing process and
Yes.
didn't realize that they were already available and selling. And I was like, what? And so and that was straight. That was when we were really in the harder pandemic, and God was.
Mm-hmm.
I kept sitting on them for the longest because I was approached about publishing probably about 2000, 2001 by a writing mentor at the time. And I remember she was going to charge me like $500 to go through the whole process. And I remember money, that was a lot of money to me. So I was like, okay, no. So then I kept sitting on it. And then finally everybody kept saying like, Ryan, when are the books coming out? Like, I don't understand what the holdup is. And I was performing, and it was like, when you perform, that can be material you can sell. And then finally, I just realized, when you think about Maya Angelou and Nikki Giovanni, the amount of poetry books that are out there with their work, I was like, why not? Let's get this started. So the first book is A Queen's Heart, which is more like it is an anthology within an anthology, because I talk about my relationship with God. I talk about my family members. Like, there's a poem that I wrote right after my father passed. And then there's I remember a Mother's Day poem I gave my mom. I put that in there. And then I talk about relationships with significant others. Like, this one poem I wrote is called Avoiding the Label, and just how as single women we struggle with family members and other things telling us why we should be married, and we're just chilling, like, leave me alone. So, and then you deal with society. Like, I have this poem in there where this young man, I was substituting at the time in Charlotte, and he kept saying, they don't see me, they don't see me. And I took that and I evolved into a poem. I said, you said they don't see you, but they don't want to see you. And basically talk about the school to pipeline prison system, how that's set up if you're not careful. Then A Queen's Anthem is basically affirmations for women through poetry, just reminding us of our power, what we have the power to achieve, who we were created by, and what he gives us the power to do. And then Confessions came out in 2024, and I was very deliberate about that, because even with the picture on the title, on the cover, is me sitting in a barber chair. And, I go to the barber. I don't go to a hair salon to get my hair cut. I mean, that's too much money. So, and then it's a barber chair. And even in the salon chair, you confess things to your stylist or your barber that you normally wouldn't say to sometimes other people. Confessions is if you had the boldness to say something, what would you say? So one of the poems in there is actually coming from the perspective of a little boy speaking to his mom about how you brought this new man in your life and you forgot about me. And like, what's up with that? So, and there's several poems in that book that deal with like child neglect, or two students at two separate times came to me as I was a teacher, and you could tell they witnessed their mom being abused and they were very traumatized, came to school carrying all that. So there's a poem, what are you teaching me? And then there's another poem in there. And some of the stuff is lighthearted. Like, the lighthearted poem is, I wish grandparents, both of my grandmothers, one lived to 91, one lived to 80. But I still wish they were alive. So it was like, God, could you make grandparents live forever? Like, they can just pick an age. I want to say 75 forever. That will be an awesome spot. So, but for the most part, it's dealing with some serious issues. So that's where that one is coming from.
Do you find, like, I have this theory, right? That educators, specifically Black women educators, and I think that's important to differentiate Black women educators who we carry, I don't know, I feel like we pick up so much vicarious trauma from our students, because, and I say that because it didn't matter what race my students were, whether or not I taught them, right? It didn't matter. But I think we just have this kind of healing, nurturing kind of thing. And I just remember when I came home from teaching, and I was like heavy, right? Heavy with my own stuff, right? But also, once I got a handle on, okay, this is what living with lupus looks like, and these are the things you need to do, chop, chop, chop. Okay. But then I was like, wait, what is this? What is this weight that's kind of here? And I started writing And I was like, these are not my stories.
Mm.
Right? Like, these are not my stories, but like, there was so much I had to get. I had to get it out before I could ever get to the stories that belonged to me, that were my stories to tell. And I feel like the first 4 books I wrote in the series, like it was a lot of purging. And people just don't consider how these kids come to school and they are so broken and so wrecked and so all the things. And they find that one teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's just like, and I don't know if the educators realize how much we carry that with us. So do you find like that you purge a lot of that through your writing?
I don't even know. I'm just very observant. And just because I write all over the place as far as my subjects are concerned. I know I'm trying to bring light, like bring happiness and bring power to people, but I also want to expose the foolery, So there is a poem, I think also in that same book called Do You Know Me Enough to Teach Me? And it was actually based on a book, which I can't think of the author right now, but he's like an education consultant. He's been a superintendent. And he wrote this book, and that book prompted me to write that based on situations I had dealt with and witnessed with my students. And it's just, that's why when I tell people, it angers me sometimes even talking about the disregard of education and the disregard of teachers, because we do carry a whole lot more than people understand. It's more than just the curriculum. You are pretty much, it's something when you're in the classroom where every now and again you'll have a student who will say, Mom, but that's how they feel. And what I do wish for them, that they can feel seen by all of their teachers. That is the issue I've always had, that I feel like not all teachers see their students, and that's not fair to those kids. Because I feel like teaching and learning will go to another level if these kids feel seen by all their teachers. But yeah, when I think about it, the first novel that I'm releasing in a couple of weeks, that is a middle grades novel. Now, I'll admit it's based on my middle school experience, and then in the 90s too at that. So, but at the same time, you do, that's something I feel like they don't teach us in school, is how much we carry, how you think about these kids and how it's not a job. Because I remember, I don't know if it was at year 7 for me or I think it was during the pandemic. I told my mom, this is my last year teaching. I'm done. And I remember I was applying to Blue Cross Blue Shield and all the places. And because I said, I want a job where I could just come home. I don't have to think about, well, let me make sure I have snacks in my classroom for my kids who are hungry. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
I think educators, like, again, I'm sticking with Black women because that's who I'm concerned with, right? Black women. We never get credit for any of it, right? Turn kids around, do all the things, but that's not even the point. The point is, I think we carry so much from all of it, and then when Black educators turn to writing, like, I think that's why the writing is so like relatable, personable, intense, even. And yes, you're bringing that light, but you are also, like you said, this is what it looks like in the corner. Okay. And we need to see this as well and kind of bring that to the forefront. So I love that. And you've written a children's book, A Blessing for the World. I love children's books. I love them. I still buy them. I don't even have small kids anymore, but I buy children's books because they just make me happy to read sometimes, right? And sometimes I give one to my husband. Hey, can you read me a bedtime story? Because they just are comforting. And I am not ashamed to admit, right? Read me a bedtime story.
On the right side of me, I had to organize my books because I'm literally busting through the scenes. So I literally have a row of children's books just by themselves, like over here on my record player. So yeah, I get you.
Yes, because they're very comforting and they tell the stories and they allow you to kind of fall back into that space of, if you had safety in childhood or if you found safety in a book, which I did. Like, I fell into safety, right, in books when I was younger. So how was this experience writing a children's book versus poetry or novel?
Well, it was slightly different where I stuck to what I knew, and I literally took a poem. because I realized that a lot of the children's books to me are singy, songy, and sometimes poetic. So I took a poem that I wrote, got with an illustrator who she is currently a freshman at Howard. And she was a classmate of my son, and just told her, this is a poem. I would love for you to illustrate so many images that go along with this poem. So the process, I will admit, was not as daunting as I thought it was going to be. Because once she illustrated the image, it was just a matter of me formatting the book on Canva, and we just went from there. But I was very purposeful with the book, because initially my first children's book, I wanted to be, when I was pregnant with my son Joshua, who'll be 19 in June, before I had him, I was just anticipation. Like, I think I was close to Martin. I'm like, everybody got their baby, and I want my baby. So it was like I just wrote these poems in anticipation of him. But when I finally decided to write the children's book, he was graduating from Ridgeview. So I said, you know what, this will, just to culminate his journey, how awesome he is. And so literally the poem affirms our Black boys and just reminding them, you are a blessing for this world. So there's even a line in there that says, the person that strives for honor roll, or the person that's content with getting a C, you're still a blessing for the world. Because we're so easy to knock someone because they're not pushing their potential, not realizing the story behind why they're not pushing themselves. Sometimes it was, number one, it's not that fun to me. So why am I going to push for the A if it's not fun? That doesn't mean they can't make an impact in whatever they decide to pursue. So even to the point, there's a lot in the poem, multiple piercings and tattoos. And that my son, once he turned 18, it was like something unleashed in him that he felt the need to get all these things, and I had to just roll with it. Some of it I did not know. But it was like, how many tattoos do you have now? So like, I need you to, and you don't get my nose pierced once I turn 18, and I'm just like, and then my niece was like, he's artistic. And I'm just like, okay. So it's just like, but then sadly, on the other side of that, you have people who you see that and you automatically assume he's a thug or he's a bum. And no, this dude is a civil engineering major, made the dean's list last semester, stayed on honor roll all throughout high school while working. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, let these kids know, let these boys know you are a blessing. And then the next children's book that me and her are working on, she just sent me some illustrations this past week. That one's actually a poem I actually wrote before, but I modified it for the children's book. It's called Heaven's Jewel, and it's a love letter to our Black girls. So that one's due to be out, if not April, probably May. But she illustratively was different because she kind of read each line and did a picture for each line for the first book. The second book, the pictures are going to mimic a storyline, even though the poem is saying something different, and then we're merging together. So it's going to be interesting to see. And she took that. I told her I trust her creative genius. She's a brilliant artist. So I said, when I see it all together, I will understand it more. So I'm really excited about that. And then I don't know where down the road I would love to do children's books based on my grandmother. She was from Edison, South Carolina, and we used to always pile up. It would be 40, I feel like 40, 50 of us in her kitchen. Just sitting there, either eating, talking. It was her kitchen. Pivotal places in our house was the kitchen, the front porch, and then in the backyard under the pecan tree. I want each book to focus on moments in those moments. So I have to put those together. But I don't know when, but that's on the docket per se.
Right. I love it. I love that you're affirming our girls, affirming our boys, that you are hearkening back to this. And when you said that, I know you said my face, I had because that whole front porch and the pecan tree and the kitchen, and I am a Southern woman through and through. I tried to deny it when I was younger, but that trip to New York let me know, no, Miss Ma'am, you are a Southerner, so just keep it trucking, right? And so I fully embrace that. And I just when you say front porch, I have a Substack that's called Front Porch Wisdom and Southern Prose, because like that's where I learned how to become, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how I learned how to become. Whatever it was I was going to become, I learned it on my grandma's front porch.
Yes.
Right. And anything I learned how to cook in the kitchen, I learned in my grandma's kitchen, sitting around the table, stealing food that I wasn't supposed to be stealing, right? Dipping in the cake batter that I was.
Yeah.
Right. And then you said pecan tree. I was like, because my grandma, huge pecan tree in the back and just sitting around talking, right? That's why I was so shocked when I bought pecans at the store the first time.
We missed that. Like even when my grandmother passed, I think we stopped pulling, and I think my Uncle John, and when he passed, because he had a huge pecan tree in his yard too. And it was just like, oh, like it's not, I don't like now I think there's called Young's pecans. Have you ever been to that in Florence?
Mm-mm.
Okay, my aunts, they're from the Low Country, they're adamant that is a welcome Christmas gift from my sister cousin. They have different flavors of like some chocolate covered pecans, sugar coated pecan, but it's called Young's pecans. I want to say it's right off of 95 when you're going into Florence, but if you look it up, they are adamant like that was a Christmas gift they love receiving. I'm not into it like that, but my family, oh yeah, you got us some pecans, like they are serious. So
love pecans, like you don't even understand. Like, give me some pecans, some pralines, give me all of that.
Yes,
give me all.
Yes.
Right. So now I see I'm going to have to make a little trip to Florence because why not? Why not? Gosh, that makes me happy. Yeah. So I have been, look, we've been talking and I have skipped all over my little notes, right? This is what happens because there is a question that I do ask every last person who sits on my couch because I feel like as an unlicensed therapist, this is what I am meant to do. And here's the question. How are you healing today?
I'm sorry for the brief interruption, but we have to pay some bills, and Ella and her guest poet turned novelist, Rian Jenkins, will return after a few words from Southern Momentum Publishing House. You should sign up for their email list and receive a free white page with 4 different narrative structures for writing Southern-inspired speculative Gothic fiction. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss Ryan's response, the Black Writer Therapy.
Do you feel it? That tug? The one whispering, it's time to finally tell your story. At Southern Momentum Publishing House, we know that tug well. It's the start of something bigger. Your voice, your truth, your power on the page. Whether it's been years in the making or just an idea waiting to blossom, we are here to help you take the leap. No excuses, no waiting, just momentum. Visit us today at somopubhouse.org and start your next chapter now.
Thank you for staying with the Black Writer Therapy podcast with unlicensed therapist and host Ella Shawn. Today she has a South Carolina spotlight guest, Rian Jenkins.
Number 1, sleep. I realize my body when it's tired, it sleeps. I do not, my mom can't stand it, but I can go a good 10 hours if I need to sometimes. It's just like, I didn't realize how hard I worked as a teacher until I stopped teaching. And you don't realize how hard, because I was that teacher that went to the plays. I was that teacher that went to the games. I showed up, and so on top of the other stuff I was doing, I'm active in my church. I have a mentoring group. So when I have a moment where I can just sleep in, I do. Like, I think we had a bad storm that passed through here. I think I woke up briefly and just rolled right back over. So,
yes.
But definitely sleep. Another thing is I'm affirming myself. Like, I never thought about this before. And I cannot stand, I think his name is Ed. I don't think it's Ed Bradley, but I know his first name is Ed, but he's a famous poet, spoken word artist. And he was doing this poem and he said, "Did you tell yourself you love yourself today?" And he was going through the audience. So I now make it a practice. It may not be every day, but every now and again I look at the mirror and say, "I love you, Ryan." Just affirming myself, definitely a woman of prayer, definitely a woman of prayer, and being in my Bible a whole lot more, and just hearing all the things that God has for me is definitely healing. Just surrounding myself with people and things that only heal. Like, I'll admit, after the election, there were certain people I had to unfollow. Not saying your content is not good, but it's giving too much, and every now and again I need a break. I can't be all things. Let's burn down the country. No, we need to be building there somewhere.
Down.
Yeah, we can't burn it down. Like, even I noticed Joy Reid, she's been saying, I know y'all, we had that picture of us sitting on top of the building watching America burn down. She said, we can't do this. We can't. And this is a woman who just got fired and admitted, no, we got work to do. And
but it's not burning down the country. That work does not include arson, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we need to understand that we have to do what we have to do to preserve what we can and do what we can. So it's just making sure I'm pouring into myself, even being healthier about my eating habits and drinking more water and being more cognizant about my sugar intake and just things like that. I feel like I told somebody before, this is why even though this is totally off subject, I totally believe this is my year. I'm going to meet somebody and marry somebody's son. It may not be married, but I'm going to meet somebody's son because I just mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I'm in a different place where I've had some people approach me and I'm just like, dude, no. And I was like, girl, you better heal. You better know your worth. You better heal. So it's just like, okay, I got you, God. So it's this place of wholeness where now eventually I would like to go to therapy. It's just a matter of me figuring out navigating my insurance. Paying for your insurance. So it's just once I navigate that and figure that out, I definitely want to get therapy. But right now it's just doing the work at home and through prayer and the podcasts that I listen to, and I'm definitely healing.
I absolutely love that. I think so many people always say, "Oh, how you feeling?" And I don't want anyone to ask me how I'm feeling because I never know. Because feelings come and go, right? They're like all over the place, right? And so I turned 50 in November. I hit perimenopause hard. Don't ask me how I'm feeling because don't do that. Don't ask me about it. You know what I'm saying? But that question, how are you healing? Because we don't ever stop and think about it. Like, I know most people don't think, how am I healing?
Yeah.
Doing, right? And so, that is my unlicensed therapist question right there, because why not? Why not? Okay. There, I got that question out of the way. I wanted to, there's something about a name you gave yourself, and I can't find it in my notes.
How about Anointed Misfit?
Yes. Why can't I find it in my notes? But yes. Really?
We mean really?
Looking at you and I'm like, I'm trying to find the Misfit. I'm trying to find her.
But it was,
I found it.
Yeah, they believe in having spoken word. You should have a pen name as a spoken word artist. And I don't even know where it came from, but Anointed Misfit, I had that since like 2000. So it's interchangeable, even to the point that when I was at an open mic in Augusta and they announced me as Anointed Misfit, and then when I went on stage and when I came off, a guy I knew, he was like, I didn't know that was you, to me, because we're Facebook friends. He's used to Rian Jenkins. But it was just something where the anointed part was definitely, I know I'm graced by God and gifted by God to do what I do. But the misfit is, we were never meant to fit in this world. And we were never meant to be, we are meant to grace it and to impact it. We were never meant to fit in. as a people. So as a result, the misfit comes from that. And I do believe poetically I'm a misfit, because there's certain things my poetry friends embrace that I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I'll stick to what I know. Because even my homeboy he doesn't get on me, but he encourages me, because I'm quick to bust out a poem with a scripture in it in a second. And other people, like, I'll never get my first, I don't know if it was a slam competition or what it was I went through. So the girl who went before me, her poem was about sleeping with some dude, and it was very descriptive. I come up, people know I'm a Christian on campus, I'm on the gospel choir. My poem sounds like someone is sleeping with someone, when really it's how we with God will have our moments where we pray to God, God help me, help me, help me, but then the next morning we're gone. We don't. So it was like a one night stand. So I had to break.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I broke that down to them. So the whole crowd went, so, and that's
like me just now, right?
because, like, literally the poem is called One Night Stand, and I'm not descriptive, but the way you read it like this, why are you talking about sex? And then at the end, I have to let people know this is about how God will still let us come in. God will still, heal you and talk to you and love on you. But then how some of us just at the next morning we ghost him, we're gone. But then we come back when something's wrong, and that's not what he wants for us. So, and it was just like, in that moment, it was like, I just stuck out from other people. And I've always considered my poems to be biblically based. Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to spread light, but still there are some poems where I still will deal with racism. I deal with, equity in education. So it's still exposing light. It may not always have a scripture tied to it, but it's still exposing light.
Yeah, I love that for you. I do. That would have been pretty dope to hear, like, One Night Stand. And then, that would have been pretty dope.
What was so crazy about it is the guy who actually won, which I think to this day he won. He was like on the basketball team. He was super cute. He was, matter of fact, my crush. Like, to this day, if I was to see him and he was like, Ryan, I'm single, let's get married, I would say yes. So, but he came to me like the next day and he was like, man, you should have won. And I was like, really? Wow. He was like, yeah, the way you broke that down, that was really good. And I was like, well, thank you. So somebody like, Ryan, did you hug him? I was like, I was behind a glass at my desk. Like, I had to walk around. I felt awkward. I couldn't, I just thanked him. But I carry that because he saw the value of what I said. And you could tell, like, the judging panel, they were kind of looking at popularity.
Yeah.
And he saw it for what it was. And I was like, oh, that will forever be here. So yeah.
That's so important to be seen. I had a guest. She was in season 2, but I just did her, I just posted her session, and I was like, I don't know that we recognize the importance of being seen, like fully seen, right? And not just seen for our great parts, but seen for all of who we are, and still loved, still appreciated, still, someone that, oh yeah, we can kick it, even though. And we were talking about that, and how she said, yeah, if they can't see me, I don't know that I really want to be in their presence, because that means that they're seeing through me, or they're seeing what they can get from me. Wow. And I was like, yeah, that part. So I can see why that would stay with you, because he saw you, right? Saw your value. Yeah. So how do you go from, like, I'm teaching for 20 years and I'm doing my writing thing, and let me go ahead and start coaching and publishing and all the other stuff that I feel like I can do. You are like,
that was a straight up God move. That was a straight up God move, because I legit, now I'll admit I'm not fully in the coaching mode like I would like to be. Well, I'm not getting paid. People are quick to call me to get advice, but I'm not. So I'm like, God, I need you to help me to learn how to say, okay, answer that one question they asked me and then end the conversation. I will answer the question and go off on a rant and give them all this feedback and advice that they did not pay for. And I think part of me goes back and forth on it, because people do that for me in my publishing journey, but that is part of my consulting and whatnot. But it was just one of those things where it just made likely sense for me to go back into writing, giving that was what God had called me to do. The novel that's coming out in a couple of weeks, I've been working on that for the last 10 years. It's to the point, kids I was teaching, was like, is that the same book you used to read to us in class? Because I used to get constructive feedback from my students, like in a writing lesson. I was like, okay, let's analyze dialogue. I would bring my book up and I would read it to them. And they're like, Miss Jenkins, that's the same book. And I was like,
you don't call me out on that, okay?
No, the fact that they remember it, I love it though. But like literally, it was my way of testing the audience. And I actually pulled, these kids are seniors now. I had pulled some to be what I call beta readers. Not only one did it. And like he really gave me feedback on the book and how he felt like this was this and that was that. And as I did that over the years, I was able to really gauge, and the kids were like, oh my gosh. And I mean, it really worked out. So the fact that this book is coming out now, like right after I left, and like this is definitely a book that I see. Like I have a cousin, she's a principal in Florida, and she said, you know, if my librarian approves it, I don't see why I can't order a class set. And I know enough people where that can happen. Like I look forward to the school visits. I look forward to being in coffee shops and talking to people about my book. So it's really exciting. And then being that I'm now on book number 5 being published, I want to be able to help people navigate this space. So I'm still waiting. There are certain people that say, I'm going to contact you. I'm still waiting to hear from them. But there are people who are legit. Like I was at one event and this one lady said, when I sit on the mic, I help you publish or help you get started with your writing. The man admitted his wife nudged him like, you need to talk to her. And he was like, yeah, my wife told me for a minute, I need to write this book. And I was just like, I can help you with that. Now I'm still waiting to hear from him. It is what it is. But I want people, it bothers me when people say, well, I got a book. So what are you doing with it? Like, what are we doing? So, and I want to help people navigate, because a lot of people underestimate the power of self-publishing. Not saying there's anything wrong with getting with a publishing house, but if you're not able to connect with one, go ahead and put yourself out there. Because I've heard stories of people who they self-published and eventually a publishing house picked them up and it worked out for them. So but my thing is so important to get your work out there. Like I might be wrong, but I feel like Nikki Giovanni, a lot of her stuff was self-published. A lot of her poetry books, and eventually she got with publishing houses. And it's just to have a permanent mark that someone can go back and you're gone, just like music, and they can go back and read that. That's a beautiful testimony to have. So I look forward to helping more people. I'm actually, and you just reminded me, I need to contact somebody. I was reached out. I'm assuming it's the city of Columbia. It may not be. It may be a portion, but they have something called First Thursdays where they have different events. But in April they want to honor poetry. So first they wanted me to perform, and then it was like, well, you can help plan where we can do different events. Like I would love to go into classrooms and do writers' workshops with students. I actually did something with Peace Corps, their students. A few months ago, did a writer's workshop with them. I actually not did a workshop, but one of my former coworkers brought me into Westwood a couple of weeks ago, and they had done a spoken word unit, and she brought me and other people in to perform before the kids and speak to the kids. So I look forward to doing things like that, all things writing, because it is an exciting thing and an exciting time. But I also look forward to my screenplays, I'm really excited for the next. So I'm like, my poetry anthology I'm working on now, which is called Eminence, that will be out either in April or May. That's my last poetry anthology for now, because I really want to hone in on fiction and nonfiction, documentaries and all that type of stuff. And and I'm really excited.
Yeah. Wow, that's really dope. I'm like sitting here and I'm just like, yes, right? Because, I have a publishing company. I just started one for no other reason than I don't hear a lot of Black Southern voices, fiction. And there is this like huge gap between like the 90s and then here. We have a few, right, that we all can name. But I'm talking about the Southern voices that are not steeped in history, but like right here, right now, let's talk about this kind of modern Southern Black woman's experience, and I can't find it, right? And so, I mean, I write in that vein, but also I know a lot of other people here are doing the same thing. So yeah, I started a hybrid publishing house, and since you offer author services, you and I need to talk.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited. So like the novel that I really want to drop like today, but it still has some work. That is definitely a Southern woman experience, going to college and losing your everlasting mind. So the book is called Luke Brown. So I'm probably gonna drop that. I hope my birthday. That would be awesome. 45th celebration.
Okay, so I'm gonna whisper to the listeners. She says she's 45. She's about to turn 45. She look about 18. For real. Maybe 20.
Yeah, that's what I've been told.
Maybe 20, but I 45. Black don't ever crack.
No, ma'am. And drinking your water helps.
And I always have the same reaction, right? Same reaction every time my guests like, yeah.
You say you're turning 50. I'm just like, I'm 50 where?
50 year girl, 50 and fine. But we're drinking water.
Water, yes.
And sunscreen. Water and yes. Yes, indeed. So I really, I could probably sit here and talk to you forever. We already late, right?
Yeah.
But we got stuff to do because we're going to get through this, and because I want to hear you tell me the scene for my game. So rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is not the game. This is just my rapid fire questions. All right. Don't think too much. If you could write a poem from the perspective of your favorite thrift store find, what would its first line be?
You love me.
You're not supposed to shut down.
Well, but no. Just say in a way I cheated. I just wrote a poem. I was in a writing exercise with Angelo Jeter, who's a poet laureate at Rock Hill, and that was a poem I wrote. That was one of the prompts that I wrote. That
Are you serious?
Yeah, but it wasn't that. It wasn't the first line. But definitely, you love me because that's how I feel when I give me a good thrift
girl. Okay, all right.
Well, yes.
Question number 2. So you're here in my home space with you're about to perform spoken word in front of an audience of 7th graders and grandmothers at the same time. What's your opening line to keep them both hooked?
Honestly, I think I love being Black. I don't know why that came to mind.
Okay.
I love being Black. Because even 7th graders, they struggle with that. And they need to hear that.
Yeah.
So some of them
and
don't.
Grandma.
Some of them don't, but some of them do.
Yeah. Okay. You have to create a new acronym for Roses that captures the chaotic beauty of being a writer, a mentor, spoken word artist. What does it stand for?
What does it have to capture again? All
the chaotic beauty of being all the things that you are, right? Because you are wearing a million hats.
Okay, this one's a cheat code too. Because technically we're transitioning into a nonprofit and I renamed it Crown Her.
Okay.
And it's just speaking to how I want to crown you with wisdom, crown you with education. I want to crown you with confidence. I want to crown you with everything you need to be continue to be the awesome person that you are in the midst of the chaos. So
I love that. And I love that you have this organization for young girls. I think that is so important because you can always find organizations for young Black men, right? Young Black males, because they're like, oh, they're in danger. But a Black woman, a Black girl, she's going to be okay. I've even heard that about preemies, right? If you have a preemie Black girl, she's going to be okay. You pretty much.
Wow.
Let's not assume that.
Yeah.
Let's not assume that. And our little Black girls are not okay. Contrary to popular belief.
Yeah.
Right. So good for you. And if anything I can do to help, let me know. So that's a good thing. How would your son Joshua describe your poetry?
I think he would say positive. I think he would say positive, uplifting. He may say powerful, because I have to drag him to shows. Like, I have to threaten him, come support your mom.
Yeah.
So, but he was one of my biggest cheerleaders. I'll never forget when several people in our church had self-published, and he was like, "When are you publishing your book? So-and-so mama published her book. When are you publishing your book?" And I was like, "Joshua, it just takes time." And it really was taking time for me. It was just getting the right publisher. At the time, I was trying to launch through a publishing house. But when it happened, it happened. So he was definitely behind me the whole time, though.
I love that. Okay, this is way out of left field.
Mm-hmm.
When it's all said and done, are we living in the Matrix?
Yeah. That's not even like, I don't watch the news anymore because I can't. I'm like, Jesus, I know you're not ready to beam of us yet, but yeah.
Your whole face.
I can't even.
Oh my God.
It's kind of freaky, eerie when you look at some of those movies we watched back in the day and just how they're unfolding in front of our eyes.
You know what freaked me out? I read Octavia Butler, and I read it backwards, right? So I did the book.
I've been afraid to read that for that reason.
You should be.
Yeah.
You should be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read the parable of I don't know what the second one is. The first one is the sower. I read that one second. And then I read the first book I read should have been the second book. Either way, I'm like looking around like, Octavia, what were you smoking when you wrote these things? And how did you know? How did you know? It is creepy. So I would say, don't read it if you don't want to be freaked out.
So, well, I've been reading, and part of me is challenging because I finally read I read God Bless the Child by Toni Morrison and The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. And I'll admit, those borderline was heavy for me. So I'm gonna build up the courage, because they turned Parable and the Sower into a graphic novel, and I actually bought that. I haven't read it yet because I have 50 million books I have to read, but I just want to get into her mind, because after I read Kindred, I was like, I need to read more of her.
Yeah, she was brilliant. And I just got into her, but also I'm scared, right? I'm too scared to keep reading any of it, because I'm like, don't do that, right? Don't tell me that you knew all this and then you just put it out here. Like,
yeah, that is the beauty and the brilliance of awesome writers, that they can tap into that.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily ever want to be. I don't know. I have a writing workshop group that I attend every Saturday. And so we write a generative, prompt based. And so I dabble in poetry, because poetry was my first love, right? And so that's where I get to write poetry, is in here. But I live in the land of prose. And so they always say to me, it's like you're channeling primordial energy, like when you're writing. And I'm like, don't put that over here on me. We don't want none of that. I'm not channeling anything at all. Okay? We're getting ready to play my favorite game.
Okay.
Oh my God, I cannot wait, because I know you're going to bring it, and I'm so freaking excited. Oh my word. Okay, so the game is called the Audacity of Black Women Writers. Okay. And this is a celebration of the fact that, yes, we are not necessarily, the publishing industry is not necessarily our friend. And yet, regardless of how we get our books into the world, we are doing the darn thing, and we are making these things happen, and we are making changes that need to be changed, one word at a time. And there's nothing makes me happier than talking to Black women writers, hearing your process, celebrating you. And once you've been on the show, I'm like, I'm following, I'm shouting loud, I'm doing all the things, because why not, right?
Yeah.
Firm believer. There is so much out here we could be doing, so let us do it. This game is to celebrate the audacity of Black women writers, and to celebrate your audacity, because you are going to write all sorts of things, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm here for it. Let me know whenever you want to on. So I have my cards.
Okay.
Can't really see them because I'm blurry, but they're 1 through 10. I just need you to first pick a number. Please don't pick 8. Everybody picks 8. That's their favorite number. Pick 8.
5. No, I was going to pick 5.
Yes. Huzzah! 5. I've not had that yet. Okay. And now I'm going to give you need to give me a letter out of the word audacity.
I. The game changers.
Yes. And your word, I just want to show you my card because isn't it cute?
It is.
Yes, your word is introspection. So you have to use that word. And then your topic is emotion and expression. So you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. What am I doing?
You're gonna make up an impromptu story.
On introspection?
Yes, introspection is the word that has to be used. Your story is about emotion and expression.
Introspection, emotions and feelings. So immediately, this was something I started and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But
I told you I love stories. Okay. Boom.
All right. So introspection.
Mm-hmm. And emotion. Expression, emotion.
Expression.
Yes, you can do this. I believe in you. You are a storyteller. Let's go.
Okay, so
Start.
So her name is Ramona, and Ramona is performing for the first time at a venue where she last saw her mother before she passed away. And Ramona has taken at least 5 years off from writing and performing and just basically wanted to get away from what drew her and her mother together. And someone comes across her path and says, this is who you're called to be. This is who you're called to do. So you can't run away from this any longer. Like, she's totally immersed herself in a corporate job just to escape having to think about writing. Like, when she comes home, she's binging on television, movies, she hangs out with the girls, whether it's having drinks or dating, but she does not pick up her pen because it touches a sore spot that she had with her mother, who is no longer here. Her mother was one of her biggest fans. Her mother always attended all of her performances, always critiqued her writing. Her mom coached her. So who am I doing this for? And then while Ramona is out one day, someone convinces her to come to an open mic, even though she really doesn't want to go. And while she's sitting in the audience, someone approaches her and says, I remember you. And then she goes on about how Ramona spoke a piece that caused her not to commit suicide, and how she was contemplating committing suicide, but because the poem that Ramona spoke that night, she went home, got her life together, joined a church, joined a ministry, went to counseling to get her where she needed to be, and her life is a lot back on track. And it shook Ramona to her core, and she didn't know what to do with that because she knew her work was good, because she constantly had her mom celebrating her, but to have someone finally come up to her and say, your words changed my life and stopped me from taking my life. It made her have internal, the word was introspection, just really mentally realize my gift was what my mom said all along. I'm meant to impact people. I'm meant to encourage people. So, but she still felt indifferent because it's like my mom is not here. And then finally, it's like the words, it's like that moment with meeting that person, just the dam broke. And then the words just kept flowing, and she couldn't sleep throughout the night because all these words, even while she's at work in the middle of meetings, these words keep coming that she's jotting down while she's on her lunch break. She's using her voice recorder app on her phone to record these words and just kept recording it. And finally, in the midst of recording and writing down words, she finally gets the courage to go back to the open mic where her mom and her frequented a lot and perform a piece that just opens her eyes to the fact that this is where she should have been all along and she never should have left. So now, and ironically, she's in the audience, and there's a publisher, someone from a publishing house. And a matter of fact, if I'm being honest, just be a literary agent. So there's a literary agent in the audience who would love, like, I would love for us to publish a book. And then on top of that, and this is a perfect world, y'all, there's even a recording. A talent agent was like, this should be a dope spoken word album. You know that the Grammys are doing spoken word albums now. So, and she just immediately in that one moment, because she finally embraced what God had for her, she goes into a firestorm where the books and the book deals and the spoken word, and she's even featured on stage with Malcolm Jamal Warner, who's actually coming to Columbia, I think this weekend. I can't afford the tickets though. But anyway, she's Jay Ivy, who was a famous spoken word artist, Tank and the Bangas, she performed on stage with them, and it just totally takes her out of her corporate job because she doesn't have time for it anymore because she's being booked and booked and booked and booked, and she's all over the place. And eventually, yeah, I think that's all I have.
And thank you, because that was quite lovely. That was quite lovely. It was quite inspiring. And I loved it. Okay. Thank you. Everybody says, oh my gosh, I can't do it. And then everybody does so great, right?
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah. So come up with that game though. That's pretty cool.
English teacher, creative writing instructor.
Gosh. So that was the one job I wish I had longer. They gave me the creative writing enrichment in middle school, but there was a whole bunch of kids who didn't want to write. And I was like, wow. So they immediately, I was like, well, I don't want to teach this next year. He was like, you're telling me? I was like, yeah, I am. Because the kids, it's a waste of time. I wish I had the opportunity. If I would have stayed one more year in high school, I would have loved to be able to teach.
Yeah, that was my, by the time I left, I think I only had like one English class because so many kids were signing up.
Wow.
Writing class. Yeah, it was great. It was great. So we're going to wrap it up because I don't want to keep you all day. I mean, I could, but I won't. Can you tell us what, I know you have your novel coming out, and so hopefully that'll be between next week or the week.
Yeah, I'm actually hoping to receive the paperback and the hardback this week, and if everything looks right, then I'm gonna place my order. So I'm hoping, because I'm supposed to be with Taylor at the Liberation is Lit table at Soda City next Saturday.
Yeah.
So it'll be super dope if I had copies of the novel along with my children's book, which they should be arriving. Yeah. So then you have that. And then you have, well, it will definitely be in time for the Read Freely Fest through the Richland Library.
Yes, I will be there. You will be there. Yes.
Yes. So I'm really excited about being able to sell out. And then there's an event through Richland too in May where they're going to have independent authors, children's authors, to expose the kids to reading and let them know about, different books and different authors in our area. So I'm really excited about those events. But yeah, the reverse is loosely based on my life as in middle school, and it's loosely based on my life where I did have a childhood friend where we were freaking frat. His mom and my mom worked together as teachers. I was within months of him being born. Our brothers were within months of being born. We were always together, from family trips to vacations to birthday parties. And unlike in real life for me, in the book, Donovan confesses to Monica, I really like you. Like, I really feel like you're the girl for me. And she's like, I don't know. And it's called Reverse because they keep going back and forth. Because even though she said she didn't know, when they finally started attending the same junior high, she's like, Donovan is cute. Like, maybe I'm missing something. But her daddy is like, you are 12 years old. Your boyfriend should be social studies, science, play, and math. Stop tripping. So it's called Reverse because they want to feel something for each other, but they're hesitant. Donovan is all in. Monica's the one who keeps going back and forth. And when she finally decides, okay, this is it, her dad is like, nah, you tripping. And then when Donovan finally gets the green light where he can go in, Monica's not trusting of it, and you have to read the book to find out what he does to kind of jack that up. But I'm really excited, and I'm from Sumter, so I include nuggets. Like, my favorite coach of all time, Coach Baker, he's in the book, track coach. One of my favorite math teachers at Alice Drive Middle School, she's featured in the second book, because technically this is going to be a 4-part series.
Good.
Yeah, so I have initially Reverse was called Boomerang, and it was one book. And then after my beta reader, Christian, read it, he was like, yeah, I definitely see you breaking this up into 2 books, because there is a need for, with our middle grade readers and our reluctant readers, to have shorter books. Not saying we don't have kids that read the 400-page books, but if we can have some 150, some less than 200, it will make them more apt to read. So
yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. You said reluctant readers and not good for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's
We're not gonna talk about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
That. And any performances you have coming up?
Yes, actually, which that's going to be a busy day. March 9th, after I leave the Read Freely Fest, I will be going to the House of Hawthorne, which is off of North Main Street. If you are familiar with the Piggly Wiggly on North Main, it's right in that shopping center. And they have an open mic once a month. And that particular month, they're featuring several artists, myself included. So it's going to be a lot of features, even coming from as far as Alabama. So we'll have a solo spot. And then April 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, I'll be performing with First Thursdays. What was it called? Whatever it is, First Thursdays, or and it's usually downtown Main Street.
Yeah.
So it's in the Boyd Plaza, that we'll be in that area doing some things. We're still planning it, but I definitely know that is the date I will be there, April 3rd. So those are the 2 that I know off the top of my head. I feel like there's another one in there, but those are definitely the 2 that are coming up that are going to be, in House of Hawthorne, there is an admission price. I want to say it's like $10 cash, $13 if you do like cash out, but it's a really open space stage. It's really a really dope event. And normally they have an open mic with a House of Hawthorne. The jam session is what it's called, but it's at the House of Hawthorne. But he decided for his Women's History Month, he decided to have a whole bunch of dope women perform, and it's going to be pretty dope.
Oh my gosh, that sounds exciting. And I'm going to, I know we're going to be at the Read Freely, but yeah, I've never been to House of Hawthorne. Never in my life. But I think I'm going to try and get there.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. Yeah, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. So, but Read Freely, because Read Freely ends at 6, and then House of Hawthorne starts at 7. So y'all literally are going to have my outfit. I may just wear what I'm wearing at Read Freely. Okay. Because I can't remember. We're going to have to pack our car up after we leave Saturday, or can we leave our stuff there?
We can leave it there, and then that Sunday we.
Okay. Then may be a wardrobe change. For anybody who knows me, this fire is always set when I get on the stage. So yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I was looking at your pictures on your website. I was like, oh my God, you're so stylish.
Yes. It's definitely an inherited trait from my mother. But I have an awesome young lady, Alicia Booth. who that she out in a minute. Okay, does this work? And she's like, yeah, Ryan, like it does. So every now and again, I have to consult her.
Yeah, you look amazing. So I'm excited. Oh, definitely. If my body says, girl, you still got a couple of spoons left, I'll be there. My body's like, take it home, put it in the shower, get it in the bed. I'll be rooting for you from my bed. Okay. It's been so lovely speaking with you. And I'm so glad you're here in Columbia. So
super dope.
Definitely. I'm going to go ahead and end this, but don't leave yet. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Black Writer Therapy, where we amplify and celebrate the voices of unapologetic Black women writers. We're proud to be part of the Alive Podcast Network. Be sure to tap into the only Black woman-owned podcast network with its very own proprietary platform and app. When you download the Tap In app, you gain access to nearly 100 Black creative voices. To support Black Writer Therapy, subscribe and choose me as your favorite podcast host. 50% of your subscription fee goes directly to this show and allows me to continue to bring you quality content like this. Until next time, remember, be kindest to yourself first, always, and in all ways. I am Alishan, your host for Black Writer Therapy Podcast.